Joker sucks.
Joker sucks.
Joker's a really bad film.
Joker is a very bad film. Joker is like a depressing human being that you just can't get rid of. That person that is completely dreadful and who thinks they're sophisticated and smart. And you just want that person to shut the fuck up and leave.
I want to first talk about characters, writing characters, and the character of Joker. And to me, there are some important questions you have to ask about your main protagonist before you can write a story. What are the character's virtues and flaws? What is their ultimate arc in the story? As a storyteller, why do you particularly focus on that character? Why do you focus your lens on that character? So, your character must have virtues and flaws. Your character must be able to influence the world in some way through his virtues. And your character must have something that lessens the impact of his virtues, right? Superman is the epitome of a superhero, but at his core, he is a human being. He is temperamentally straightforward and emotional, meaning he is susceptible to people who are more clever than him, like Brainiac and Lex Luthor. In the movie Elf, Buddy is this really friendly guy, and people really like him because he's really friendly.
Okay, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town. Santa! Oh my God! Santa!
But he is innocent to a fault. In The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort is a clever and hardworking guy, but he has bottomless selfishness, right? Even though the audience may not like the character, they know that the character will change the world around them. And that itself is fundamental to intrigue people. What follows next is the character's arc. As Jordan Peterson said, the hero must go journey into the darkness and emerge from it reborn. In metaphysical terms, to me, that means that your character is an argument, and the subsequent journey that the character goes through a counter-argument. And therefore, the original argument, which is your character, becomes more fully realized, more realistic, more informed and wise. Again, this is very basic storytelling. The audience doesn't know what the character will do when confronted with something that's unfamiliar to them. How the hell will Buddy adapt to modern life? And is Jordan Belfort going to live a normal life as a corrupt stockbroker? Probably not. You as an audience member are smart enough to know that that basic argument is going to change and going to morph and turn to something else, right? But the critical thing is that you as an audience don't know how that argument's going to change, how the main character is going to change. And that's why the character arc is so crucial. And then this gets back to the final question that I mentioned earlier. Why is the character the focus of the story? You as a writer have to answer this, right? In effect, your main character has to be the most interesting center in that world. Every story has an intrigue and a consequence, but what has to be chosen is a particularly interesting intrigue and consequence. I mean, you could tell any other story about some person and they had some conversation of something and they say, oh, I realized something, right? That's a boring story, right? So you have to choose the most interesting story, a story that's worth telling. I mean, you can have possibly like a film like Magnolia or Tokyo Godfathers, right? But these films are primarily about the theme of chance and highlight the fateful moment as the center of the story. But if you're making a story about a sequence of events and the events have consequences, the characters do things that have consequences, physical or emotional, then you need to establish because of this that they did, this bad thing happened. And so that goes to the question of why Arthur? This is a big part of why the movie is so bad. Arthur has no virtues except that he is devoted to his mother, but no one in the film gives a shit about that. Arthur doesn't really change throughout the film because everything that happens to him, we largely expect it to happen to him. He was a terrible comedian from the beginning, and he proves to be a terrible comedian. He was very unlikely to be Thomas Wayne's son, and he was rejected by Thomas Wayne. I mean, we all knew that that was going to happen. You could have focused on any other person in that story with a mental illness and a shitty life, and the film makes no difference. So it's a complete coincidence that Arthur kills three men. He coincidentally becomes a symbol, and he coincidentally makes a big speech at the end in front of everyone, in that city. So what specifically about Arthur made those events happen? Was it because he wasn't funny? Was it because of the constant humiliation he got because of his laughter? Was it because he hallucinated? My understanding is that it's none of these things. And I think you agree with me too, right, Antonio? That none of these things are really the reason why Arthur goes through his character arc. And therefore, his arc throughout the movie is not a conscious action of his. But then it's like the message of the movie is people who are unhappy can become the Joker. And that makes no sense to anyone, right?
Oh boy. Oh my god. Don't get me started.
So, even if we accepted the world of the film, clearly other people in the film were not like mini Jokers, right? It was just him. Joker is singularly Joker. He singularly dances and he singularly gets other people killed, right? But let's give the film the benefit of the doubt, right, Antonio? Let's say that's the intentional design of the film, right? That
Oh
that
god.
Arthur's virtuous trait is that he takes care of his mom and he tries to find happiness in his life. He tries to look, he tries to be optimistic about his life, right? The physical symbol of his happiness or of his ideal happiness is being an adored comedian. Even though the beginning of the film makes a point that Arthur constantly feels shitty throughout his entire life, and there was no notion that being a comedian would actually change his life. Like he himself didn't harbor any like idealistic thoughts about that, right? So Arthur is trying to do his best in life through honest effort, right? Even though
Bullshit.
even though the film doesn't make it particularly clear that he is that way. That's his personality. He is the most notable character in the film because his life takes an unexpected turn. But here's the issue. Let's analyze that unexpected turn. Perhaps Arthur is given a specific opportunity, but it corrupts his soul, which actually does happen in the film, but it happens at the very end when the huge riots break out, right?
Not when he killed those sons of
Arthur,
bitches.
no. It apparently didn't affect him at all.
Wait, so you're saying he's not a different person after he killed those guys?
He is, but only when he tells the audience that he is. Other than that, he kind of just goes around his regular life trying to be a comedian and meet his dad. But so suppose we have something in the film where Arthur early in the film meets Murray instead of actually later in the film. And after being humiliated by Murray, he works as a regular in Murray's show. Someone that Murray basically constantly ridicules, like his court jester or something. This causes him to loathe life, and he comes to the conclusion that nothing is meant to be taken seriously. And so he begins to have murderous thoughts. Because, like that would be a proper catalyst for his hatred of things, right? Or in the mere chance scenario, perhaps being fired, finding his mother's letter, and then being associated with some violence or some level of vice, right? Causes him to lose his innocence because he himself is not the originator of this violence. It has to come from some outward source, right? But then it's like in the actual film, neither scenario really plays out successfully. And what Arthur does and Chance get confused with each other. What was Arthur's intention? So him being fired is by chance, right? He drops that gun. He drops the gun in the children's hospital, whatever. But then Arthur shooting the Wayne employees, he decided to do that on his own.
Well, he brought that gun on his own.
Yeah, but it's like he's never been shown to have like homicidal tendencies, right? Okay, so then he
hold up.
found.
He. Why would he kill those guys?
The only thing I can think of is because the bald guy earlier in the film said that it's a harsh world, and he is morally justified in shooting guys like that.
So he had some sort of arc where he figured that killing people's okay.
If that is the case, it was not shown in the film.
Well, I mean, like that's a pretty big deal. What kind of justification are they giving Arthur for doing
Because
this?
he was sad, Antonio. I don't know.
The,
But anyway, okay.
like, always,
So
like we're supposed to feel bad for him, and yet he's a murderer now.
so the other thing is that Arthur finds the letter, and that was by chance, right? His mom's letter. But then him wanting to meet Thomas Wayne was his decision. And it's like, was he ever that naive in the first place to really think that meeting Thomas Wayne face to face would really work out? It's clearly shown in the film that everyone hates his guts, even strangers. So it's like, why would he think that Thomas Wayne would want to see him? Like, Arthur's not shown as being
Well,
a terribly out of touch person, right?
Arthur knew. Like Arthur knew that like his mother was somehow earlier in the film she was saying Thomas Wayne helps everyone that worked for him.
But why would he believe what
No,
his
no, no,
mother
no, no,
says?
no, no, no. He didn't believe. That's a problem. That's the point. He didn't believe. I think he kind of knew. He should have known. He did know that she's kind of kooky. And so when he read that letter, I mean, the first thing I think a regular person would be like, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. This is not true. There's no way. I think my mother's going crazy. That's what I've come to the conclusion for. Like you have to show us that even though this is crazy, he's still going to do it. Like, just how do they justify it? Just because his situation in life is bad? Because he killed 3 people? Like, how's that justifying him going to Thomas Wayne estate and bothering him?
This is going back to why I brought up the topic of character in the first place and why I want to bring this topic up. Because Arthur as a character is so fucked, right? It's clear that whatever the writers did for writing the script, they did not give Arthur a clear set of personalities, a clear set of goals, a clear set of reasons to do anything that he does in the film. Everything in the film simultaneously happens by coincidence, but it also happens by him, right? Like through his own will. And so it's like, okay, so people ask themselves the question, did society create the Joker? Or did the Joker create himself? Or is it a mix of both, like his homicidal and delusional tendencies, plus the shittiness of society making him? And the answer is that logically, as we discussed it, there's no logical connective there. And so whatever you think happens in the movie is something that you have to extrapolate yourself with your own feelings. And so now that we've talked about character in the film, right? I remember that the film made you feel totally shitty at the end of watching it, right?
And like at the beginning.
Throughout the entire film.
Like, this movie made me uniquely depressed. It was so sad. Like, it was just so hard to like keep watching this movie. It made me so sad and so depressed. Like, it made me depressed just because of how they set it up. I don't give a shit about Arthur. I don't give a fuck about him.
I want to be clear about this to you guys before, like, Antonio was saying the film's making him depressed, and people can say that, oh, but the film is meant to make you depressed. I want to make this clear, right? We've seen Isao Takahata films. We've seen Grave of the Fireflies, and we've seen The Tale of Princess
God.
Kaguya.
Grave of the Fireflies.
It's fucking depressing.
That will make you sad.
Yes.
That movie, but it's worth watching.
And
don't be sad.
Princess Kaguya made you sad too. It made both of us sad.
Oh yeah, Princess Kaguya is a great film. That's an amazing film.
We both can say they're both incredible films, even though we were both kind of, a bit sad afterwards. And I've seen a film this year in 2019 called Parasite, right? Which is also a film very similar to Joker about society, right? How people are mistreated in society. And that film was kind of depressing too, but like it was a good film.
Like, you cannot say that I feel bad for the protagonist because Justin just explained how we don't feel anything. And it's an extrapolation. So you can't say, can't do that. That's not right. No. Like, I don't care about Arthur. like he's an idiot, and it's like I don't see a goal that he is going out and he's trying to fulfill. He doesn't have agency. Things just happen. Oh, someone happened to give him a gun. Like, okay, and he just happened to bring it to work because we have to forgive him because he gets attacked by stupid teenagers. That's not a reason to bring a gun to work. Like, what are you going to do? What would he have done in the beginning of the film if he had a gun? Shot them? Shot little kids? You're going to shoot kids? You're going to shoot teenagers? I don't think a gun's a great thing to do, a great thing to use. And so you expect me to like, oh, he got unjustly fired. Like, no, he got justly fired. The lack of competence there, it's draining on my confidence in this character. I don't see why I should care about him.
And then everything else around him is fucking miserable too, right?
Well, that's like unreal. It's kind of unrealistic.
No, it 100% is unrealistic.
It's like everything is depressing. Everything is. It's like this is like a one note kind of thing. It's like you're like you know, a world is dynamic. A world has lots of emotions. You have to present these emotions that the world has this range. It has this emotional range, but we don't have this emotional range. It's just always sad.
The funny thing about the movie and the funny thing about the reception of the movie is that the payoff for the film is when you see Arthur doing horrific things to other people. Right? Like, when he killed that guy, it was like the best part of the film, you know?
Oh, that, yeah.
But then like the reception of the film is like, this film is about how you should treat other people with mental illness better in society and how society like throws these people away. And it's just like, but you're supposed to be enjoying the complete and utter violence that happens in the movie.
Oh, like, this is supposed to be an origins movie.
So that's actually a question that I wanted to ask you. And I thought it would have been an interesting question to ask. But what is this film to you? Is this film a superhero movie, or is it an art film? Because there's been a lot of debate about it, and people say it's both.
That's neither.
But what are your thoughts?
It's neither.
Oh,
I'll explain. It's like what Rian Johnson did. Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips took the iconography, the intellectual property, the universe, the characters of the Batman series, and used it to make a film for himself.
That's the biggest insult I've ever heard. Hurled at the Joker.
Like, is this supposed
like a
to
Rian
be
Johnson movie?
Like this movie? It's like, how does this movie contribute to the Batman universe, or to the DC universe, or whatever? Like, what does it do?
You were talking earlier about like Killing Joke, right?
Oh yeah. Justin and I talked about this, the Killing Joke. So, in the Killing Joke, one of the biggest things of the Killing Joke that was trying to explore is that the Joker, his biggest deal to Batman is that, just one wrong day, one bad day, or one too many bad days, one wrong turn, one bad coincidence, and you can become just like me. He wants to believe, the Joker wants to believe, like he didn't choose this.
But clearly in the film, he chose this.
Oh, in the film, yeah, he chose. Well, actually, I don't want to say that because, an actual person chooses. Like, this guy didn't choose shit. It's terrible.
It's clearly because of the fact that he hallucinates, and it's clearly the fact because he specifically wanted to be a comedian, and he looked up to Murray, and he thought that he was Thomas Wayne's son at one point in time. It's very specific to him. So yeah, it completely invalidates Killing Joke, and you can't even say that it's based on Killing Joke because the whole premise is fucked.
Well, I mean, isn't that what a lot of people are saying about what this movie said? I'm not saying Todd Phillips says this. What I'm saying is other reviewers. Other reviewers have said that the Joker is a product of Gotham City. And I'm like, are you guys even aware of the Killing Joke? Like, that's one of the most famous stories in all of comics, in all of Like that's a really big one. That's a big one. It's like you guys aren't even aware of the point of it. Like if you are aware of the point of it, and you look at this, like Todd Phillips doesn't give a shit about that. If that's true, if you think Todd Phillips was trying to do that, if he was trying to make the Joker the Joker is a product of Gotham City, and like if you think Todd Phillips is trying to do that, then he doesn't respect the Killing Joke. He doesn't respect what other good stories are in the Batman universe. He did not make this movie for that. He made it for himself then. It's like disconnected.
Let me give my 2 cents. I agree with you. My 2 cents are, this film is trying to be an art film and only achieves to be half of that. And this film is trying to be a superhero film and only achieves half of that. And in that sense, it is basically neither of those things. I agree with your assessment. Yes, it's trying to be an art film with like its lighting, cinematography, its ideas, like this intense introspective look into this character's psychology.
They just need a better script. It's like yes, if they had a better script and they kept everything else the same, it would be probably a way better movie.
It's trying to be this film about these social themes, about society as large, and trying to tell all of this message, right? And on the other hand, it's a big dumb superhero movie, straight with the orchestral score, which is completely inappropriate for the tone of the movie. It's trying to be an origin story, as you said, for Arthur, how the Joker becomes the Joker, essentially, with all the violence. I mean, the violence is not even like stylized violence.
It's just story.
Yeah. I mean, the violence isn't stylized violence. It's just violence, right? Like, the only stylized violence is when he bashes that guy's skull in, and that was admittedly one of
that was a good. That
was the best part of the film.
Scene. Yeah, it's really fucked up, guys.
And then the second best scene after that film is when he dances on the staircase.
Yeah.
But which is the most famous.
That is the famous scene. Yes.
But other than that, it's just a big dumb superhero film. But it doesn't even have your Marvel-like action sequences, or your Marvel-like humor, or your Marvel-like sense of adventures. It's not like a Thor Ragnarok or something, right? Where it goes in one direction. And it's not like a Nightcrawler, right? Like art film, You haven't seen Nightcrawler, but Nightcrawler is like it is singling in on this specific character. The dialogue is great. It's super sharp. It really shows this character's like deep mental state. It's really tense, and you're like, what is he thinking? What is actually happening in the scene? Like all of these things.
Yeah, guys, the movie sucks.
Repeat after me. Let's have one more refrain, Antonio. Joker sucks.
Joker sucks. Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix is great, guys. You know what? You know who else is great? We are, but so are you. So, if you like the video or you dislike the video, please let us know, and tell us in the comments. If you're raging and blood-eyed, if you're like so angry at me, you can just subscribe and keep track of me and come after me. Like, I'm good, but I'd still like you. I like you nonetheless. You can disagree with me. I still like you. So thank you for watching. Please comment, please like, or please dislike, and subscribe.